Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, TNA Grand Slam champion. He's done it all in TNA, even Ring of Honor as well. He is Mr. Frankie Kazarian. Frankie, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. How are you?
Doing good. Tell us all about what's going on with TNA and AMC. This is huge. This is awesome. What a channel.
So much, yeah, it's big. We're starting off the new year in a big way. Obviously, January 15th live, our debut show on AMC, and to say it's huge would be an understatement. In my estimation, this is the biggest move for TNA in terms of a television partner. Obviously, we've had deals in the past with great partners, including Fox, Spike TV, Access TV was a great partner to us, but AMC is a big player in the storytelling game. Anybody that, at least here locally in the United States, anybody that is familiar with AMC knows that, shows like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and Mad Men and Walking Dead and those stories those shows are so influential in television nowadays and the storytelling they do and just the audiences that they reach. So TNA being a part of, AMC's first endeavor into live sports is massive. And we're very excited. I know AMC's very excited, and I can't wait for January 15th to get here.
Pretty awesome. Going to be live January 15th, coming up Thursday nights, 9 to 11 on AMC and AMC Plus. So, I mean, that's huge. And you mentioned the pantheon of awesome shows that they have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much known as like even Dark Winds and stuff. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
known as like putting on great stuff. So, were you kind of surprised that like AMC was working? Because it's not never had live sports, never had wrestling. It wasn't associated with wrestling. Did that surprise you at all?
Yeah. Yeah, we were not necessarily kept in the dark, but those negotiations are very much discreet and on a need to know basis. We knew that a lot of networks were being negotiated with for the better part of last year. Carlos kept us up to date about, the fact that there were ongoing negotiations, but there was never networks that were specified. And I had my theories, but when I found out it was AMC, I was shocked in a good way. I was like, wow, that I didn't really see that coming. But and because they had never, ventured into the live sports arena, I was like, wow, this is big. Because they're them choosing us to do that with shows that they are going to be invested in TNA, and it shows that they really like what TNA is doing and they want to put it on their programming, which is accessible to so many more viewers. So it's big for everybody. I've said in the past, it's time really for us as a roster to really step up and show what we can do, and it's going to be cool. TNA on AMC just has a great ring to it. You know,
I agree. That's awesome. And I love that they've been playing the commercials. I was, all through the break,
yeah.
was watching Christmas Vacation, everything that they got
Oh
going on.
yeah. All
Constant
yeah, I watch I
commercials.
watch AMC a lot. I watched all during the holidays. They had a Rocky marathon on the other day, and I'm a huge Rocky fan. And it's for me as an 8-year-old kid sitting there watching it through those eyes and watching Rocky, and then it cuts to a commercial and I'm on it. It's like really a
Yeah.
full circle thing. So it's very cool.
I got to be honest, Rocky 3 might be my favorite. I know people might disagree, but I love Rocky 3.
So yeah, anyone that knows my story knows that those movies are very important to me. Rocky 3 is the reason I became a professional wrestler. I watched that movie religiously as a kid. Before I even knew what pro wrestling was, I went to a video store with my mom and my cousin and saw WrestleMania 1, which had what I thought was Thunder Lips and Clubber Lang on the cover. And I thought this might be like a backstory on them because I didn't know what
Yeah.
wrestling was. Pick that up, put it in, and that was professional wrestling, and it got me hooked. So, in a small way, I owe my career to Sly Stallone and that franchise. But yes, I agree. That movie, while it's a little campy at parts, is maybe my favorite too.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. That's awesome. Thunder
Yeah,
Lips and Clever Lang got you into
yeah.
wrestling. That's awesome.
That's the gateway drug that got me. I didn't know what pro wrestling was, and this was '85. So, I was gonna find out what pro wrestling was eventually because it was, pretty
True.
mainstream at that point, especially to a 7-year-old kid at the time. But yeah, that's what got me into pro wrestling, that movie.
I just love that storyline because it's like, okay, Rocky, he did it all. He's been there. He's on top. And this other guy comes up who's kind of like Rocky was. He's got the heart. He's got the hunger. He just destroys him. And he realizes, damn, I got to go back to the drawing board. But while in the midst, he's doing the pro wrestling thing. He's doing, you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
Almost became too famous. He had to go back to his roots. And then he kills Apollo at the end. And I love that song at the end. That's the best when he finally
That's
fights back. That's awesome.
Yep. But that story is so relatable because that had happened to fighters, especially in the 80s. They got a little, they got a little fame, they got some money, and they lost that hunger that brought them to the dance. And that was the whole story arc. To whereas Clubber was training in these dingy basements and he was hungry for the title, to whereas Rocky got complacent and it kind of all hit him in the face, and Mickey dies and all of that. And so Rocky, again has redemption. He has to redeem his loss. He has to do it for Mickey. And it's great storytelling, man.
Yeah, there's so much in that movie. It's crazy because Mickey dies, Hogan's in it, obviously Mr. T. I mean, there's so much good stuff in that movie. It's ridiculous.
If you're a fan of the 1980s, that movie is like, mandatory viewing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree. Of course, Back to the Future, which is always on AMC too.
Yep.
Those are great
Yep.
marathon. I know you love that.
Yeah, huge. That I'm obviously, I was the future Frankie Kazarian early on, and that was, 100% because I loved those movies. The font of the lettering was, I have a poster I'm looking at right now, Back to the Future poster. That lettering was on my tights, and I had moves named after that movie. And yeah, that movie just resonated with me in a different way, and still to this day does. And a lot of people of our generation, that
Yep.
it's the closest thing to like a perfect movie that you can make, I think.
And it's funny, and now it's in Fortnite, which is a video game my son plays, and he goes,
Mhm.
Dad, if you go 88 miles an hour, I was like, you need to watch the movie with me. I know he's only 10, but it's like, you need to watch the movie. You'll
Yep.
understand it because he's like, this is so cool in the game. I'm going to go 88. And then he goes in the past and stuff. So
Yep.
I was like, so you haven't seen nothing yet until you see the movies and until you
Right.
see
And to your
Biff.
point,
Yeah.
yeah, and to your point, I like, anything I show my son, like I show my son those movies a few years back, and he immediately fell in love with them and got the toys and everything and the video game. And it's that right there tells you that it's timeless,
Yes,
because a
definitely.
13-year-old kid can watch those movies and be as invested as I was back in the 80s watching them. That movie holds up and it's going to until the end of time.
Absolutely. I love
Yeah.
kind of getting him or trying to get him into stuff that I like. We went to a
Sure.
WWE show last night and your buddy and business partner Cody beat Drew in the main event. But I love that love of like he really wanted Cody to win. Like he
Yep.
thought, the wins and losses matter. I love when you have that emotion, not only with movies, because it's like, oh, you got to be Biff or whatever, but with wrestling,
Yep.
that's the best. I love that. You kind of just
Yeah.
forget about the realism for a second and you get caught up in it.
Yeah, seeing it through their eyes is super cool. Like my son is the same way. He's very much a huge wrestling fan, but it's 2025, so also he now has access to, the internet and online, and like, oh, well, this person said this match wasn't good. I said, you know what? None of that matters. What matters is what you think. Just be a fan. Do not
Right.
worry about any of that. Just be a fan. If somebody doesn't like your favorite wrestler, you do. It doesn't matter. You just be a fan of what you want to be a fan of. You know?
Yeah, he loves like Jey Uso or whatever, and he's like,
Sure.
"Oh, somebody says he's not a good wrestler." I'm like, "Oh, it's just like listen to the crowd. He's a good wrestler if you listen to the crowd."
Do you like him? That's what
Yeah,
matters.
yep,
You know, I growing up, my favorite wrestler was Tito Santana, and he was wildly popular. But everyone else my age liked Hulk Hogan because you had to. And
yep.
I'm like, cool. I know Hulk Hogan's a champion, but my favorite's Tito Santana. And yeah, that's just how it is. So it's like I always tell him that, like, it doesn't matter. Like you like what you like, man.
I was always a Hogan guy, but my buddy was a big Warrior guy, and I was like, I don't think he's as
Oh,
good. But but obviously, there's the dichotomy, the fight or whatever between them.
yeah, and I love the Ultimate Warrior. When he came along, I was hooked. He looked like a comic book character. You know, looking back now, being a pro wrestler, yeah, maybe he wasn't the best technician in ring and all that, but for the time and for the era and for what WWF was going after at that time, he was perfect.
For sure. Now,
Yeah.
sticking on not WWE, but WWE NXT and kind of that relationship. What do you think about TNA's relationship with WWE and NXT?
Yeah, it's been beneficial. That goes without saying for us, and I think it's been beneficial for NXT. A lot of those guys that come up in that system, they learn what WWE wants to teach them, which is their way of doing television and matches and all that. And coming to TNA, they get kind of a different taste. It's a bit looser, a lot more freedom when it comes to like promos and stuff. There's a little bit less micromanagement, I think, So it's really cool for them to see that side of it. And for me, all the stuff I've been able to do at NXT last year, uh, I mean, I had a blast. They really treated me great. They rolled out the red carpet for me. And it was cool just to, just to be part of that crossover. And, like I've said in the past, it's wrestling fans, I hope, are enjoying this and not taking it for granted because a decade ago, this was just a pipe dream. Our TNA talent appearing on WWE television and vice versa. So it's really cool. We're living in the age of DC and Marvel, they're
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's great just because it's not like like very one-sided. Maybe in the past it would be one-sided if they
Sure.
had agreement with somebody. It's very even, and even like the match results, if you will, which is a little bit different, but the perception is a bit more even now too, which is nice.
Right, yeah. Like when we went over and we had the, Survivor Series style match, the NXT show, and TNA won the main event match. And people, the people that were saying, "Oh, this relationship is going to be one-sided and it's just going to be dominated." Well, I think they were proven wrong. Like TNA was the victors on their show, so that shows a lot that WWE is not only willing to bring us in, but willing to showcase us and present TNA as competitive and sometimes better than. So it's worked out really well, and I know it's going to continue into the years to come, which is you know again, high tide rises all ships, and I think it's going to work uh, to benefit both companies.
So call your shot. You had the trophy. You cash it in. You beat Santana. You win the title. You're the TNA World Champion right now. You're the
Yep.
World Heavyweight Champion. Little controversial. Controversy usually means cash. If we can quote Eric Bischoff,
Yep.
obviously former great president, excuse me, of WCW, and obviously ran TNA for a little bit. But controversy creates cash. Why do you think people were so upset, or is that a good thing? Because heels need heat, if you will.
I think it's a great thing. The fact that everybody was that angry warmed my heart. You know, that means they care. That means they're paying attention. Indifference. That's the thing you don't want. But the fact that people were angry means everybody's doing their job correctly. It means Mike Santana did his job. That fans were so invested in him and his story and his character. And the fact that a slimy villain like me took it away from him means they were invested in me and they hated that I did that. And they want to see him attempt to get his title back. We're telling stories, man. And that's what it's all about. So, the current Frankie Kazarian character, King of TNA, that's the way he needed to win the world title. Was attacking a wounded animal because that's what this character would do. And it resonated with people and they hated it. And it's good. Sometimes I've said this, sometimes the Joker beat Batman. So what's that mean? That means you want to see Batman kick the Joker's ass that much more the next time.
And to me, sometimes wrestling, and I know this happens, you kind of come to a crescendo, and sometimes like, oh, Santana winning, this is awesome. But then sometimes, not necessarily TNA, but WCW happen a lot, WWE happens, and then it's like, okay, where do we go from here? You had the shiny moment, you had the crescendo.
Yeah.
How do you keep it going? It always ends up going like Sting beats Hogan at Starrcade, right? I mean, it's controversial, but
Yeah.
like it's supposed to be this huge thing. They literally had no other creative. It kind of went downhill from there. That just seems
Yeah.
to happen a lot too. So if Santana wins, okay, where do we go from here? There could have been a down. Now
Yeah.
people are still interested because they're like, damn it, like our guy needs to be the champ. What's the hell's going on? The chase is back.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, in real life, the bad guy wins. Sometimes in real life, the bad guys have power. It is what it is. And it's like, again, yes, we're pro wrestling, and I think TNA is the best pro wrestling right now. But we're telling stories, and that's what locks the viewers in. And you know, uh, again, people right now are upset and angry, and they want to see Mike Santana redeem himself, and they want to see me get my ass kicked. And that tells me I'm doing my job correctly, and that tells me that TNA as a company is putting on programming that people care about. And that's at the end of the day, that's my job is to help TNA present the best pro wrestling that we possibly can.
With you, obviously, you are a Kowalski guy. Triple H is a Kowalski guy. Ever any thought about? I know you've been there before, obviously, but
Yeah.
is that a thought in your mind, like, oh, I want to go back, or anything like that, or you're focused now because obviously it's a huge deal with AMC?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I had, some very progressive and positive conversations with them. in the week that I was free before I after I left AEW and came to TNA. Very positive talks, and it just worked out that TNA was going to be a better fit. Yeah, I mean, like who knows what the future holds, but I'm very, very much invested in TNA and making this place um, uh, as big and getting as many viewers as I can help get. Uh, that's kind of my objective right now. Uh, at the end of the day, I'm a TNA guy, and I wear that as a badge of honor, and that is my legacy as a TNA guy. So. Uh, I'm going to fight with every breath I have in me to do everything I possibly can to help this company become what I think it can become.
Grand Slam winner, like I said, obviously current
And
champion. What do you want to really see from TNA kind of going forward, like with AMC and everything? What do you envision, like kind of a goal?
yeah, I would love for us to, really, first of all, to be able to get to show a much broader audience what we're doing. Number one, because there's a lot of people that just, for whatever reason, don't have access on their channel guide on their, it's just not in as many homes. So for a lot more people to see what we're doing, number one, and then to take them on the ride with us, and for the people that have been on the ride and know our history, um, to stay on that ship with us, and for new people to get aboard and just see what we're doing. Really, because that's just it, is having access to see what we're doing. The TNA Plus app is great and everything, but there is still a good amount of people that watch cable television. I know streaming is in vogue and all that, but there's still a lot of people that are just, sitting down and they watch, there's certain programs every week. So I want to attract all those viewers that, maybe didn't have access to TNA and show them what we can do and tell them our stories and just to become mandatory every week viewing for those that watch AMC, just to see what we're the people that watch AMC just for the Walking Deads or the Breaking Bads, maybe, oh, what is this, oh, cool, pro wrestling, maybe they can hook me just the same way that Better Call Saul did and Mad Men and all these other shows.
AMC, TNA with AMC, of course, Thursday night, 1:15, January 15th, that is from 9 to 11, AMC and AMC Plus. Give us one
Yep.
last push for TNA on AMC and everywhere everybody can find you as far as socials.
Yeah, I mean, yes, certainly January 15th is huge world title match, myself versus Mike Santana. That it doesn't get bigger than that.
Yeah.
We're throwing everything at you on that first day, and defending the world title on television is a big deal. So I'm psyched for it. The roster is incredibly excited. The management team behind the scenes, everybody, we've all worked to get to this goal. And January 15th, we're here and we're kicking it off in the biggest way possible. And that's just the beginning because we have a lot of cool stuff planned for the future. So if you have AMC, January 15th, 9 o'clock A Central, make sure you're in front of your television. And those outside of the US, the program is still available on the TNA Plus app, which is a great app. And as far as me, you can find me on pretty much mixing it up on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it these days, and Instagram, Frankie Kazarian and Frankie Kazarian underscore official. Uh, I engage a lot, talk a lot of music, talk a lot of cigars, all that good stuff. And tune in and come on the ride with us.
Awesome. Frankie, thank you so much for all the time. Everybody check out TNA on AMC Thursday night, January 15th, 9 to 11. Thank you so much for all the time, Frankie.
Appreciate it. Thank you, John.